the mental battle for me is half of the kicking ass.
Hi, I'm Sarah Rodman from Entertainment Weekly, and I am so sad that we cannot be together in San Diego this year, even though it's always hot and sticky and kind of gross. I was still looking forward to it. So I am excited, though, that we are still able to make our EW Women Who Kick Ass panel happen, and I cannot think of a more kick-ass woman to be a candidate for that at the moment than our guest today, Jurnee Smollett. Jurnee, so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored to be selected to be interviewed by you for this. This is awesome.
I'm curious what that phrase actually means to you, because I don't think it has to mean something physical like Black Canary kicking ass. Like, I feel like it could be something sort of bigger than that. So when you hear that phrase, what do you think?
It's a woman who's audacious enough to be her true, authentic self. It's a daily battle to reclaim who you truly are in spite of the way the world wants to define you. And sometimes you got to kick people's ass in order to do it. You got to kick some people's ass to the curb. You got to physically kick their ass. You know, you got to kick their ass out of your mind, you know, like the distractions, and like really gain the clarity to the strength to, you know, the mental battle for me is half of the kicking ass.
That like in this moment, you actually are feeling really good. And I'm curious what you're attributing that to.
Oh, you know, it's been quite a challenging time collectively for the whole globe. For me personally, it's been a very dark period. You know, it kind of comes in waves and stuff, and trying to navigate this period without losing my sense of joy, without losing my sense of hope. You know, trying to hang on to the light within the darkness. I've been holding on to certain rituals that I try to do every day. You know, I'm also a mom, so some days I don't actually achieve that. But this ritual, it's a combination of meditation, journaling, prayer, some sort of physicality, whether it's yoga or working out, you know, just trying to recenter myself. And like I said, you know, those distractions, even though we're also isolated, I feel that there is like this collective grief that we're experiencing.
Yes, absolutely.
And so trying to like not let that penetrate my space, my mind, my body, my spirit, has been half of the battle for me.
Yeah, I think it's like, I call it the CNN crawl of the mind, that like in the back of our mind, there is that constant, just like, and I have to worry about this, and I have to worry about that, and how is this family member, and oh God, what are they doing out there to help control this? And it sounds like you are doing stuff to compartmentalize healthfully, to like take care of that, which is great.
It's a battle. It's like some days are great, you know. Today's a good day. I'm talking to you. I got dressed up.
You got makeup on. I'm wearing a bra.
You know.
Exactly.
Oh, I got dressed to come to my kitchen.
We so fancy. But it does. I mean, it makes a difference, that kind of stuff. And I love that. I mean, one of the things that's so interesting to me about you is that you've been kicking ass for a long time. I mean, you've been doing this work that you're doing since you were a little kid. And I always wonder about people in your position who started at such a young age. Do you feel at the age you are now, looking back, that you actually made a choice to do this? Like, do you feel good that this was sort of your dream?
I think it's hard for people to understand, because it's kind of, I liken it to Little League. You know, you notice your child is good at sports or at baseball or something, you put her or him in Little League, right? And if they continue to be good at it, if they continue to love it, then they continue it. Right. And that's kind of how the situation was with my mom and my siblings and I. You know, my mom's wildly creative, wildly imaginative, and obsessed with cinema, obsessed with art. And so growing up, you know, she would put on Sound of Music, and we were the Von Trapp family singers. You know, she was Maria. You know, so we kind of fell into it in a very organic way. But I do remember a very clear moment in which I chose it. And I fell in love with the actual craft of it. Prior to this moment, it was like a hobby. It was like, oh, it's fun, you know, go and kids play pretend, by the way, all the time. You know, I watch my son and my niece, Hunter and Nyla, you know, they play family, they play different games. Hunter loves being Marshall from Paw Patrol. He's literally been going through a period for a good year where there's you cannot call him Hunter. You got to call him Marshall. The period went away. It came back last night, and I was devastated because I can't call my son baby anymore. I got to call him Marshall.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so kids naturally are storytellers. They naturally take on the spirits of other characters and play pretend. So that's really what I was doing when I was really young. But then when I did a film called East Bayou with Casey Lemons and Samuel L. Jackson, Lynn Whitfield, you know, amazing, legendary cast. And I learned more so, in hindsight, I learned tricks and tools that I still use now and touched upon, just, you know, put my toe in it just a little bit, but touched upon the high that you achieve as an artist when you practice the craft of storytelling. And it was from that moment on that I knew, oh, I want to do this.
Right, I picked it. Yeah, I love it. And I knew that it was going to be that movie. When you said that you made a choice, I'm like, I know it's going to be Used by You. I just know it is, which was such a great film. And and looking back on your filmography, I thought, God, how fortunate you've been with some of the people that you have worked with as directors and actors, and to have that early formative experience with the Black woman director, which was so rare, is less rare now, but still not as unrare as it should be. But like, what a great opportunity that must have been in all senses, from a craft perspective, because the character was so rich and the story was so rich. But from the TV, or the film family that you were surrounded by. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because it must have, as a kid, been kind of mind-blowing.
In hindsight, my earliest images were, this was the second film I did. The first film I did was Jack, directed by Francis Ford Coppola and Robin Williams. You know, like Robin Williams taught me how to improv. You know,
wow. You can say that.
Rest in peace, man. But he was a genius.
Your hairy arms and your eyebrows. And yeah, he has receding hairline. How old are you?
I'm 10.
You're either not 10 or you're a freak.
I'm not a freak. You're a freak, Four Eyes.
He's 10.
But yeah, one of my earliest memories of the captain of the set, which is the director, was this beautiful Black woman with dreads, you know, and she plays so many women of all kinds in different roles. And I didn't realize it then how much of a trailblazer she was. Yeah. But she placed women of all kinds in various roles of heads of department, or like our DP, Amy Vincent, is one of the greatest DPs of all time. The woman, you know, like she's unfortunately still one of the few women DP. But, you know, so from then on out, my scope, my awareness, my gaze was through the perspective of a Black woman, you know, and so unfortunately have not been able to work with enough women, female filmmakers, you know, since then, as much as I'd like to. But yeah, she left an indelible imprint on me.
I'm sure. And now, I mean, with Misha, you are having that experience again as the showrunner on Lovecraft Country, which is the next thing that's coming up, which, you know, I'm excited about. For everyone out there, it premieres on August 16th on HBO. And it reunites you with Misha from Underground. And so I'm curious, first of all, can you explain to the folks, since this will be coming out before the show comes out, in a nutshell, what the show is about.
The show is based on a book by Matt Ruff called Lovecraft Country. And it begins with the story of Atticus Freeman, who is coming back. He's a war veteran, and he's returning home after being gone for a while. And he's returning home to Chicago to find his father who's gone missing. And he goes on a road trip with his Uncle George, with his friend Letitia Lewis, whom I play. And they go to find his father, and unfortunately end up encountering the horrors of 1955 Jim Crow America, as well as monsters who could be ripped from a Lovecraftian novel.
The American dream.
Depends on the question, what is reality?
It is dramatic, it is scary, and it is on multiple levels this show is operating. Sort of metaphorically, symbolically, what's actually in the text. But there's also some joy in it too, which was one of the things that I was surprised by. There's at least one or two episodes that I've seen so far where there's like smiles and laughs, which is great, which seems like a really good balance. And so to bring it back to Misha just for a second, did you guys sort of have an unspoken language? Did you guys sort of have a secondhand feeling with each other since you've worked together previously?
Well, initially when we worked together on Underground, the pilot of Underground, I hated her.
Okay, real talk.
Real talk. It's no secret. She and I talk about this all the time. She would tell you the same thing. She hated me too. We did not vibe at all on the pilot. We butted heads a lot. It was the first time she was a showrunner. It was the first time I was starring in a show, you know. And there was a lot of pressure. We felt the pressure to get this element of our overlooked history right.
Yeah. Yes.
And had to learn each other's love language, right? And then became incredibly, connected and operated with Underground in a way in which we did eventually, it became, so fluid. So by the time she and I worked with each other on Lovecraft, we have like secondhand language, I understand her writing and she understands my process on a level,
right.
That I honestly haven't had with any other collaborator in my life.
Yeah, it seems cellular. I mean, the way you look in this, I think there is a glow on you, even though there are moments of darkness and stuff and very serious ones. There is a glow on you and on Jonathan that is special. And I mean a literal glow. Like whoever is lighting the show is doing a really good job. I mean, that's one thing that we talk about in Hollywood about sort of the dearth of Black hair and makeup people in the unions and, behind the scenes and stuff. And so they're doing it right on this show in that regard. I mean, it's such a sort of weird thing to talk about, I guess, but it really is impressive to me because sometimes it's hard with our, the gradations of our skin color and stuff, that they're really getting it right. Are you seeing that?
Oh, I mean, listen, it was very intentional on Misha's part, but on, the DP, the director, it was very intentional to make sure that the look and feel of the show was different than what we've seen. And there's a scale, there's a scope in
yes.
the way it's shot, that unfortunately we haven't experienced on television with people of color, especially in the genre.
Yeah.
When I remember seeing some of the stuff during the pilot and just being blown away, the magnitude and the scale in which we are telling the story. And yet, it's not really my job to pay attention to that stuff or care,
right.
or to even watch it, because Misha has done such a beautiful job with the text of telling really the story of a Black family
Yeah.
in the 1950s. Really, this story is a family drama. I mean, which is wild because it is sci-fi, it is horror, it's thriller, it's all these, it's a mishmash of genres, and yet she has this real gift for maintaining varying degrees of tones. And we as the actors are really only focused on the relationship stuff.
Right.
You know, whether it looks good or not, I mean, whether I look good or not, like there's a whole crew of people who are responsible for that.
Right.
And honestly, as a woman, it's one of the things I try so desperately to do is to like, yeah, we set the look. We absolutely, like Dana Pink, Sandy, you know, Nikki Nelms, who designed the hair. Sandy designed the makeup, and Dana Pink is our extraordinary costume designer. Yes, I work with all of them diligently to craft the small details of who Letty is, because who we are, and even more so in the 1950s, as Black women in the 1950s, the poise, the dignity, the way you carried yourself was an act of defiance. It was, I'm going to push my race forward because I'm a fucking look amazing. I mean, you know,
absolutely.
Like,
I think that's still true.
It's absolutely still true. But I remember hearing stories about my grandmother, you know, who I mentioned to you before, the first Black Miss Galveston from Galveston, Texas. And
amazing.
You know, raised 4 children, a single mother in New Orleans in the South in the 50s and 60s. And anytime I've seen her in a picture, her hair, her dress, like it is ironed. Everything is just, you know?
Yeah,
and
on point.
She cleaned homes for white folks and did it with dignity. You know, it was, she knew when she walked outside the door, she was representing something bigger than herself, right? And so, yes, I work diligently to craft the external aspects of Letty's expression. However, as a woman, one thing I try to do so much in my craft is not worry about how I look.
Yeah. Because
that's a trap. It's a trap. It is such a trap we fall for as artists if we're not careful. As women, men don't have to worry about it as much.
No.
You know, and it's a double standard, and it's of course, like we know it's not fair. You know, it's jokes how, you know, this dude can play the son to this legendary actress and he's only 5 years younger than her.
Right.
You
or
know?
He's older than she is.
Yeah, or he's older than her. And then his love interest could be his daughter. You know, like the joke, it's endless, right?
Right,
so we know it, we're aware of it. But still being aware of that, I still don't ever want to become the artist who really cares about how I look, frankly.
Yeah.
Because then that means I am, you know, unable to tap into what's in here, what she's feeling.
You're not in the moment. If you got to let the vanity go in order to be present, to receive the thing that's happening, to be in the scene. Yeah, exactly. And I didn't mean so much that you look pretty, which of course you do, but like just there's something about the palette of the show that I hadn't seen before that I think I was really excited by. To be like, look at all these beautiful Black faces and all these different colors.
And all the different colors and all the different shapes and all the different ages. I mean, it's again, that's kudos to Misha and the creators, the filmmakers behind the camera, because it was so important to make sure that it was incredibly inclusive and diverse and representative of who we are in all our different shapes, hues, and colors.
But I love that you are coming back to HBO, because the last time you were there, you haven't done a lot of genre stuff in your career, but the last time you were on HBO, you were on True Blood, which was slightly less frightening. A little more fun.
Right, yeah.
But have you been staying away from genre on purpose? Are you just like not a sci-fi horror person?
No, I love sci-fi and horror. It's not that. It's honestly, historically throughout my career, most of the things that I was either offered to do or, you know, they wanted me to come in and read for, sadly, most of it was like, she's the black chick who dies on page 33.
Ugh.
You know, yeah, and for me, it was just never satisfying artistically to step into that. Like, I don't care to do stuff for a paycheck. You know, I have never cared to do stuff for a paycheck. That's why my resume is not 50 pages long. It hasn't been until now, you know, having people like Misha Green or Jordan Peele who have stepped into this genre and had these radical reimaginings of centering our stories within the genre, it hasn't really been something that's been exciting for someone like me to be a part of. Because there hasn't been space for someone like me to be a part of. You know, like it takes the creators, it takes a Margot Robbie, you know, and a Kathy Yan being like, we want an all-girl gang, and yo, like, let's just cast the person we think that's the best for the project, you know, like, times are changing and it's exciting because for artists like myself, I get so bored. I get so bored.
Yeah, well, times are changing in time for you, which is amazing. I mean, there are, you know, people 10, 20 years older than you that would kill for these opportunities but I'm sure they're so happy to see that this is happening in Birds of Prey, which I just watched again last night, which is so fun. There's a couple of ways that you're kicking ass in that, but I do want to talk about the actual sort of physical kicking ass that you do in that, because that isn't also something that you've done a ton of in your career. I mean, you're, you know, sort of dramatic actress, and that has been your wheelhouse, but like you got to do some moves in that. And I'm wondering if that was part of the appeal of that film.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it was the chance to do something that I hadn't done before. On Underground, I guess, would have been the closest thing, but it's not at all in comparison to what I was asked to do Black Canary. But, you know, I did all my stunts. Even when I was pregnant on Underground season 2, I did, like, the fight scene.
Now that kicks ass.
I was crazy. I was like 8, 9 months pregnant running in the woods because I am lunatic. I'm loony. Like, I gave birth to my son 9 days after wrapping season 2 of Underground. I'm crazy. I'm crazy.
So that was a good character for you, that Black Canary.
So with Black Canary, I was like, oh man, yes. Like, please, God, yes. Because I'm also such a fan of action films. I love action films. I mean, I could watch The Bourne Identity or like, you know, Denzel. I mean, listen, Atomic Blonde is my ish, okay?
Yeah, love it. All right, this is your future.
Give me some John Wick all day.
Yeah. All right, this is the future we're manifesting for you right now. I love this energy so much. That like the next thing you're gonna do when this mess is over, just some big blockbuster action movie where you're the star, not the girlfriend.
Hell yeah. And you know, I love like the 8711 team and Chad. I mean, I would love to actually work with Chad. You know, that's for sure, like on my bucket list. He is such a gift for telling the narrative through, you know, these really inventive action sequences. And so the chance to work with 8711 and do these things, you know, yes, absolutely. And it thoroughly kicked my butt, and you know, lived in a constant state of pain doing it.
From the training and the fighting and
here's the thing. I was still nursing, and so there's things that chemically happen to your body and your joints where that, you know, pregnancy and nursing, you know, moms know. And so I had to kind of like work a little harder with that and like really supply my body with supplements. And I packed on like 10, 12 pounds of muscle.
Wow.
I'm, you know, it's quarantine life.
Feeling scrawny. Like, you know what? We can't all be having perfect bodies and writing King Lear during quarantine. I'm just going to say it right now to everybody out there. If you have not written a book and lost 30 pounds, it is okay.
Be kind to yourself. No, I mean, yeah. So I loved the 5 months of training that, or 5+ months, it might have been a little more of training, and would do it again in a heartbeat.
And so is that a possibility? Do you know that, like, doing it again?
I it's no secret how much I loved playing Black Canary, and so honored to take on that mantle. I would absolutely do it again if given a chance.
And then you also got to do something in that film, and that you were now doing on Lovecraft Country as well, that I think was kind of frightening for you, the singing, which I'm not sure why you were frightened, because in both of these instances you are excellent. So I'm curious where that fear came from.
Good question. Now you're trying to get me on you're trying to get into a therapy session now.
I'm sorry, it's how I do.
Yes, I respect musicians and the craft of singing or using your body as an instrument to create music is one of the things that I revere the most. And, kind of dibbled and dabbled in it when I was a kid, and really needed training, still need more training. And so it's just something, it's one of those things, it's one of the things in my shadows, that just kind of exists, that I really desperately want to do and love, but am very, I'm just not as confident in it. I sing when no one's around. And look,
in the shower.
And here's the thing, it comes out in moments when I drink too much.
Right, of course.
Hun, listen, I could go through Whitney Houston's whole discography if you give me some shots of Patron.
Wait, which is the song? What song though? What's the go-to Whitney Houston song? Is it I Have Nothing?
No. It's like the ones that people don't actually sing a lot, like Miracle.
Oh, that's a good one.
Or like Where You Are. Or I could sing you the whole Whitney Houston in South Africa concert on YouTube. Like, I don't know why.
Because
she
was a queen. Yes.
She's oh gosh, But music, I use a lot in my personal life. I use it a lot in my craft. Music is just one of those things I respect so much. And interestingly enough, yes, have been asked a lot lately to take on roles in which I have to sing. So
well, and not just sing, but sing these like great big emotional like ballads and blues numbers. Like It's a Man's World is not an easy song to sing.
No, not at all.
And the arrangement they did for Birds of Prey was so beautiful. Like it sort of like they really mixed it up. But when you see that, so what's the process to get to the place that once you're on stage, I'm sure some of it is just being in character, right? The character is singing this, Jurnee is not singing it. So that must be some of it. But what is the process to get to the point where you can just do it?
It's exactly what you just said. It's kind of taking my own ego out of it, which within that, all that fear, that's the illusion of it. That's not real. What's real is Canary. What's real is that Dinah Lance has a voice and she sings in this nightclub for Roman. And these people don't appreciate the gift that she has. And so, as with any scene, I'm just tapping into the soul and the spirit of Dinah and kind of get out of my own way.
Wouldn't be nothing without a woman or a girl.
But I see it and I think, well, why isn't she starring in like the Lena Horne biopic? Like, do you sort of have dreams about doing a full-blown musical?
I do. I absolutely do. Yes. It's like the top of my bucket list.
All right.
Is the idea of doing a musical. I grew up watching musicals, you know, not just Sound of Music, but American in Paris, you know, like the classic MGM days, you know, on Turner movies, Sid Charisse and Judy Garland, and, you know, Vincent Minnelli's films. I mean, I grew up loving musicals and, you know, would love one day to either do that in film or on Broadway or something like that. Yes.
Do you feel like you're ready now, or do you feel like that's something you need to work toward?
I feel like if it was something that I had to do right now, I'd get ready. You know, like with Harry, if you would have asked me, could I do an axe kick? I'd be like, hell no, I can't. But I have, one thing I know about myself is I have a damn good work ethic. You will not find someone who can work harder. You might find someone who can work just as hard, but no one will outwork me. It's just not going to happen. And so regardless of the challenge that I take on next, I know I could get ready. Hell yeah.
And I just wanted to ask quickly just about that film, because I personally love him so much, about working with Ewan McGregor. Because he was playing such a wacky character that is like so out of what we normally, although he has had a very diverse career in terms of characters, that really one was like off the deep end. I'm curious what that experience was like.
Oh, I loved working with him and with Chris Messina. I mean, both of those men, and being able to play opposite them, and it was a lot of fun also, because they make such unexpected choices and they're very unpredictable. And so I love those type of actors. I love working with the actors where it's just like, you never know what is going to come out of their mouth. You never know what this take is going to be. Like, me and Chris improv'd a lot together. And I mean, they are lovely men, lovely. They couldn't be more different than their characters.
And I heard that you asked some interesting people for advice about doing a comic book movie, that you talked to maybe Ava and Sam and Will. What did they tell you about doing a movie like that, a superhero movie?
You know, they more so were just very encouraging. And it, you know, Sam's so funny, because I called him, I was like, yeah, so, you know, anything you tell me? Like, for one, because with these projects, oftentimes there are sometimes a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and there's like this big studio and the source material to respect. And I read everything I could about Black Canary and stuff like that. And, you know, that was the first thing Will said to do. He was like, you got to read everything. I was like, well, I did that. And he was like, okay, good. Then, you know. And with Sam, he was just like, Jurnee, just go piss on your territory, you know, like, you got it, like, and I was like, you're right, like, I'm just gonna go do that, like, you know, I think, for me, I just wanted to understand, you know, I have my process, and in my process, it's rooted with so much research prior to ever getting on set, and I wanted to know, well, is there anything that I possibly couldn't think of when approaching this world, you know, because the comic world is a very sacred world and to be respected, right? And so I wanted to know, is there anything that I wouldn't think of that, you know, wouldn't be a part of my process? And the consensus was no, like, trust your instincts.
Right.
It's not, you know, and that was refreshing to hear, because that's the path I was on, of like, listen, I just have to put my blinders on. And I just got to create the character that I feel is truthful, you know, and there's really no difference between my process here or my process here, you know, because all that other stuff is not my business, you know.
Right, yeah, absolutely, which is so great. And I think that, like, the bottom line is storytelling, right? So we tend to think of these things in these boxes of comic book movies and, you know, serious dramas and light comedies, but storytelling is storytelling. So it seems like your approach, but I mean, I like that you're conscientious about it, that you're like, I want to make sure I'm not missing anything.
Yeah, like, if there's some, like, convention I should be going to? Is there a
Well,
small?
it would have been this one.
Yeah, I mean, like, should I go to this really small comic book store in Silver Lake that has the comics with the dust and it smells like piss on it? I mean, like, is that what y'all do? Is there an initiation and I'm not thinking of, like,
Right.
you know.
And they're like, no, just act, Jurnee. I want to go through a couple of your characters, which I think kicked ass, but I want you to tell me why you think they kicked ass. Why did Judith from Temptation kick ass?
I plead the fifth. Next question.
I think there were redeeming things about that character. I'm interested in that answer from you. I think there were very relatable things about that character.
Right.
And I think that is a way that she could kick ass.
For sure. I mean, struggles of a relationship and, you know, what happens when someone is unhappy and like how that can like open a door and you start doing things you never thought you'd do. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are parts of that journey that are positive, even though there is a sort of a net negative. Like there are parts like she learned things about herself that I think a lot of people need to learn about themselves. All right.
I don't know about kicking ass though, Sarah. We're talking about kicking ass, so I can't.
She did very questionable things, but I don't know that I can justify it as kicking ass.
Right. No, good point. Good distinction to be making. This one will be easier. Nicole Wright. How did Nicole Wright kick ass?
She was so intelligent, you know? I think she was just very unapologetic about her beliefs.
Yeah. Which is another thing that we could all take a lesson from.
Okay, Tori from Roll Bounce. How did she kick ass?
With her braces.
That is right.
You know, I could relate to Tori so much because I grew up in a family with 4 brothers, you know, and so I'm so at home with dudes and guy talk and like their smelly ass socks and you know turn that off, or you know, like that testosterone. And even though my mother being very much so the matriarch of the family, is a very feminine household and my brothers are encouraged to tap into their femininity, I know what that testosterone is. And so that's the Tori, you know.
Yeah, she gets it, just like you get it. Yeah, and that's like, I feel like if you're the right age when you see that, you're like, yeah. Like another one that's just like, I get it. And then how does Jess from Friday Night Lights pick up?
I love Jess, man. I loved the fact that she was so defiant about her passion. She loved football. You know, I mean, why shouldn't she love football? Like, why shouldn't she be able to be involved in it and appreciate the skill and the sport just like he, you know? And so I loved her tenacity. You know, she hounded the coach. She was like, okay, I'm gonna be humble. I'm gonna clean the locker rooms. I'm gonna deal with these jock jokes and stuff like that. Because I've got a target. And my target is I want the coach to mentor me.
Yeah.
You know?
And I know what I'm talking about. She knew what she was talking about more than most of the people on that show.
And that is the confidence she was able to walk into that space and being like, I belong here. Whether or not you want me here, I don't need your approval to be here because I'm just gonna be here, you know? And I loved the scenes with Kyle that we were able to do. Like that whole show, they encouraged us to improv. And there's a scene that I'll never forget doing. It's such a simple scene where, you know, I've talked to him about there being a coach, female coach, right? And he kind of tosses it away, like it's never gonna happen, blah, blah, blah. And then he comes back to me, he's like, yeah, but you like those odds? Like, is that the kind of, you know?
Yeah.
It's that real, she had that real innocence that I think trailblazers have. Trailblazers don't think, oh, I'm blazing a trail. oh, I've had the fortune to play enough historical figures, and in research, they're not aware that they're making history. No. They're not aware, even if they are aware of the fact that they're the first woman or the first person of color, first Black person, what have you, they're not doing this of like, I'm gonna make history. They're following their passion, and they cannot quiet the voice that forces them to pursue their passion. And that's what Jess was.
Yeah, and that show, I have to say, I had seen you in Eve's Bayou, I had seen you in things before that, but that show is a really special show for me and for a lot of people. And I'm imagining that's one that you get a lot of people coming up to you and just being like, oh my God, Friday Night Lights.
Yeah, I do.
And then
more now than when we were doing the show. It was like, did people watch the show when it was on?
Yes, well, I did. I wrote about it. But then you worked. Yeah, absolutely. And then obviously it worked well with Jason Katims, because then you went to work on Parenthood for a little stretch as well. And so I'm imagining that experience was a good one.
Oh, I loved it. I loved it. Again, I mean, for me, I have the best time. I had I find I also do the best work with certain kinds of storytellers, like a Jason Katims, like a Misha Green. They understand characters. They understand people. These character-driven stories. Even when they're placed inside these very unique worlds, it still has this familiar element to it. Yeah. And I love Jason Katims' words. And again, he encourages us to improv. We improved on FNL, we improved on Parenthood. It was like a prerequisite. It was a part of the auditioning process. Literally, Pete Berg auditioned me. And one of the things he did, he stood up and started improvising with me. And the fact I could improv with Pete Berg is the reason why they hired me.
Yeah, and what a career that guy has had, just like as a sidebar, like to go from where he was to become this director and stay being an actor and like make these great films. I'm a big fan of his as well. Yeah. And then I want to ask about Underground too. I feel like it's clear how Rosalie kicks ass, but it's really kick ass.
Rosalie kicks ass. So many ways. When we first meet Rosalie in the pilot, she has like this quiet force in her, that and that was one of the things I initially struggled with, was pacing her strength, because you can't start at 99%.
Right, you don't want to be at 11 at the beginning.
You got nowhere to go, you know. And so she was very much so this delicate rose, and yet at the center, there was this fire burning inside of her that she had to work so hard to keep down. I mean, that's the work that she had to do, is just keep it down, suffocate it. You can't let anyone see it. Don't let them see it. Seeing it could mean death.
Right, it's dangerous.
Yes, the stakes are so high that me voicing something to protect my 5-year-old brother ends up where my whole skin shredded from it. I mean, to be able to endure what our people endured, like that ancestral strength, we come from such resilient people.
Yes, and we need to honor them right now, is like my message to the world.
Oh yeah, because they survived conditions way worse,
Absolutely.
We are here because of that resilience that pumps through our veins, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that in this description of all of the things that we've been talking about here, and I want you to watch this back and look at it, but all of the things that you're describing that I feel that you could be describing about you, Jurnee Smollett, and that is why you are attracted to some of these characters, because you see that fire, you have that passion, and you hope to honor that in like these people, whether they're real people or not, but like honor the idea of character. And I'm wondering if you do that sort of intentionally, or if you just look back and go, oh, these women have a lot of things in common.
know that it's intentional or more so it's just I'm attracted to stories about women who are flawed, who struggle. And I'm not really interested in telling the story of the woman that is told through such a limited gaze in which they reduce her to just the girlfriend or just the wife. We are girlfriends, we are wives, we are mothers, but we are more than just that label, right? And so when we in narratives are reduced to that, it's not really very interesting to me because we're not just the sounding board for our dude, you know?
Right.
Like,
and for the women who are not girlfriend, wives, or mothers, there's no story there.
exactly.
There's no person there for me to be like, that's me. And
Right. And
you
that's
got to see it to be it, you know?
Right.
And it's good to be the support system, and it's important to be pips. We all got to have pips. We can't all be Gladys Knight all the time, but like sometimes we got to be Gladys Knight.
Yes, and I just know the women in my life, the women that I come from, again, are just more than who they are to people. Like they're more than who they are in relationship to someone, whether it's in relationship to their children or another man or another woman. They're more than that. Like, and so as an artist, I am attracted to stories in which I can explore the inner workings of what makes that person's soul come alive. I mean, you know, it's just why I would want to get up and go to work, because it's not work when it's that stuff. When it's the other stuff, and I have done the other stuff, and I'm now at a point, fortunately, where I can turn down the other stuff, because that other stuff, that becomes work. It's actually harder for me to tell those stories and make those stories interesting than it is when the character is multidimensional and has wants, needs, desires, and has obstacles that are in front of those wants, needs, and desires.
Yeah.
I want to go on the path of exploring how's she gonna get it? How's she gonna get it? Because she's got these flaws that are in the way, and she's not, you know, and then this person's getting in the way, and well, how's she gonna heal that mother-daughter wound that she has right there? That's gonna, you know, like that's the stuff that excites me.
I want to thank you so much for being with us today. I'm so happy that we were able to talk, and I wish you luck in the rest of this time, you and your family, and hopefully maybe next year there'll be an actual Comic-Con and we'll be able to say hello to everyone watching and to each other.
And hopefully we can talk about Lovecraft there in person.
Yes, amen to that. Until then, take care. Thanks so much, Jurnee.
Thank you so much. You're a joy.